Good evening. It's Sunday, July 5th, 7:31 p.m. and World on Earth has reset it. Let's take a look today. Today's Sunday. We don't really expect big numbers on Sunday, but we do have big numbers this Sunday once again for the second week. USA towers once again at 44,000 new cases. Brazil 26,000. India 23,000. Things are escalating in India. They're getting significantly worse. South Africa is fourth. That's another place to look at. There's a lot of things going on in South Africa. I'm going to be making a video later on South Africa. Something short just to give you a situation of what happened there because it's out of control at the moment. Most deaths was Brazil once again. Mexico, India, USA's were low. Yeah, again, it's the weekend. On the weekends, we always get low numbers. And we got a lot of countries and states that don't report. And the media likes to capitalize on that and say that, oh, we're doing better because there's less reporting. Well, obviously, it's the weekend, and not everybody reports a lot of the times. See who didn't report today. Spain, I know it took a long time. Yeah, Spain didn't report, and they're back on lockdown. So they're gonna get back up. They played it off for like about 2-3 weeks just to take in those 6,000 German tourists, but they're already back on lockdown. France didn't report. Sweden didn't report. Denmark, Cameroon, Ethiopia, Gabon. And then take a close look at the USA. As I said earlier, LA is not reporting, not till tomorrow. How convenient it was during July weekend, as the state as the city county is beginning to lose control when everybody's looking at them now. They're not reporting anything. So number one is Florida, another 10,000. Florida has been excelling in new cases. Not a good sign. Texas is second. California is fourth, and they're missing a lot of their tally. New York is, I'm tired of people. I'm tired of people praising New York. They always have high deaths for the country. They're still catching a lot of hell, and a lot of new cases. Like there's a doctor named Calvin Soon who was in the ER. Some Chinese doctor that was working in the New York hospital. He's always bragging about how New York has flattened the curve, and like, I get it. You don't need to be bragging about it every single day. Your people are still falling like flies in New York, so you're not over the worst part yet. And then, again, some states didn't report. And I do want to point out something about LA that was kind of strange. So, sorry for the music. So we have did they get rid of it? Oh, they got rid of it. There was an unassigned. Well, I guess they eventually figured out where they went. So San Bernardino was the top one. Again, LA didn't report. And one of the worst hit states. Imperial, another one of the worst hit states, did not report. We have all these counties that didn't report today, and we know that LA will start reporting tomorrow. I'm not sure the status on the other counties, but definitely a cover-up going on here because they don't want to admit how bad it really is for whatever type of agenda they're trying to push. Now, for the latest news, I don't have a choice but to hear the music. My neighbors. All right, so July 5th. Oh, we're going to get to Nick Cordero in a little bit. Nick Cordero's wife says she doesn't know if he will ever be able to work again. The Broadway star has been hospitalized since March. We don't know if he'll make it. I pray every single day of my life that he does. But if he does make it, I don't know when he'll be able to work again. If he'll ever be able to work again, Klute said. It's not looking good for Corona Chan's punching bag. Now, I've been keeping up with this guy's case since it started way back in March, because he was the first reported case of a man who received so many blood clots in one of his legs by the virus, he had to get a leg amputation. And so I figured I gotta see what happens with this guy. So every day I would Google his name, and I would just keep up with what would happen. And he was just disastrous. Like the doctors were telling his wife that his lungs had reduced to that of an old smoking addict. He had to have something added to his heart, like a pacemaker. He's too weak to receive a double lung transplant, which was like the last ace in the last ace card he had left to survive at that point. Um, as I said, he had lost his leg. He was gonna have to learn how to walk. He couldn't speak. The only way he could communicate was by moving his eyes to signal yes and no. He was very weak. He had several reinfections. His lungs were getting infected again and again. He had blood pressure problems. He had to get blood plasma work. They really did everything they could at this point to keep this man alive. And I just had to see it to the end. India surpasses Russia as third worst hit COVID-19. Yeah, India already is moving up. I mean, Russia, first of all, isn't even reporting, honestly. Houston, Texas mayor, hospitals could face serious trouble in 2 weeks. This is Texas, a Texas mayor in Houston. Hundreds of scientists say coronavirus is airborne. Ask the WHO to revise recommendations. So we know that this is airborne, and the who are basically held at a leash by China, are saying that it's not. And again, you can't trust the WHO. They were saying from the beginning that the masks, you don't need them. They were saying from the beginning it can't be passed from human to human when it was already being reported by virologists that it could. Can't trust them. And in fact, they have a lot of blood on their hands. And if it was up to me, Tedros should be backed up against the wall and shot. After a week of coronavirus highs, USC slight drop in cases for July 4th. Wall Street Journal makes fools out of themselves and fails to point out many hotspots in the U.S. stop reporting altogether and will continue to for days. And as I mentioned, holidays, on the weekends, you always have less numbers. So again, you have to look at the media closely. I do enough to see how they're trying to control the narrative, and most people fall for it. Let's see, updates. Texas, Florida, and Arizona officials say early reopenings fuel explosion of cases. This is true. But what the mass media is not telling the public is that it's deeper than that. The media won't call out Plandemic, Andrew Kaufman, and the many other fakes and frauds that wage psychological warfare on the American people and convince millions that the virus isn't real, it's the mass killing people, and that it's about your freedoms. These people made dollars out of exploiting the fears of normies and have blood on their hands for inspiring the anti-lockdown protests and many of the mass recent gatherings. Pennsylvania State University is tracking those in contact with a 21-year-old student who died of COVID-19 complications. So now, left and right, we're seeing all these cases of young people dying. They're slowly letting go of they had underlying conditions. It's just people are just dying. Doesn't even matter who you are, what you are, where you are. And nobody knows why this is happening. 121 University of Washington students test positive for the virus. The outbreak in these frats started, I think, in the 60s. Yesterday was up to the 80s. Today is up to the 121 number. Spain holidays latest. 30 beaches at tourist hotspot forced to shut this weekend after a huge coronavirus spike. And Spain is suffering again, and today they decide not to report. So, U.S. House Speaker tests positive for coronavirus. Mr. Gunn is the state's highest-ranking political figure to publicly disclose a positive test for the virus. Coronavirus cases hitting new all-time highs in the U.S. weren't enough to keep thousands of Americans from ignoring the pleas of public health experts who warned against large gatherings with scenes of crowded beaches, packed parks, and maskless parties common across the U.S. this weekend during 4th of July celebration. These poor fools. And those that knew better, I'm not going to pity you once you cry and tell me that you get sick. Crisis. England's pubs reopened to huge crowds, sparking fears of another virus spike. So, at first, the pubs were saying that it's all right. It seems kind of control. People are social distancing. And then what happens? Nighttime hits. Everybody's drunk. People are getting naked. They don't care anymore. They're swarming the streets. And then this did not end well. Facing a new surge in cases, Los Angeles County hospitals could run out of available beds within the next 2 to 3 weeks, county health officials say. Now, this is very alarming because I've been following the bed situation, and we're getting really close to that boiling limit. And all the time, LA stopped reporting their numbers. Texas leaders warn of hospital capacity, ask for lockdowns. Again, we're going to go back to lockdowns. The president does not want to go back into lockdowns, but I think a lot of the leaders of the states are going to rebel against them. New York City tattoo shop says coronavirus is becoming sought after ink design. Get your coronavirus tattoo today. before they get locked down again. Coronavirus latest news: no checks on travelers required to self-isolate in Scotland. And of course, it's not going to end well. And now, back to Nick Cordero. This was announced minutes ago. I heard the rumor in the morning. This got out in the morning. Celebrities were already talking about it, but they all deleted their posts. And so I watched his wife's latest post on Instagram, and she went from hopeful, which she had been the past couple of weeks, to basically something like she had given up. And she was grifting her workout service in the last post before the big announcement, because she knew once she made the announcement today, she would lose all the attention. So before she announced the death of her husband, she tried to sell her services of her whole workout routine, leeching off of this guy's case because he's dead now, and she won't be able to get the attention. Now, granted, yeah, I mean, she needs to survive. She needs to feed her daughter. I guess the hospital bills are gonna get laid on her. So who knows what that would be. So Broadway star Nick Cordero dies at 41 after 90 days in hospital from coronavirus complications. Just happened just now. And I was right the entire time, because this man's case was one of the most horrific I had ever seen of anybody who had caught the virus. There was nothing he could do. Like I mentioned earlier, they tried so many ways to keep this man alive. But if this virus wants you to die, you are going to die. And there's nothing you could do about it. So, I mean, the arc is over. This was the Nick Cordero arc. I mean, it's not so smug now, but, you know, it's a shame, really, what he had to go through. Imagine waking up from a coma 2 weeks ago, can't speak, can barely move, well, can't move, can't talk, lost 65 pounds. He can only communicate by moving your eyes. And within a couple hours, I guess he must have realized that, there's no coming back from it. His family surrounded him. They sang some prayers and he passed away. Some life.